Graphic designers take note, one of the greatest book covers ever. But first, a very special guest. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me. This is Read More, and today I have a very special guest. It's Scott Ehrig-Burgess with the Library Shop. Hi, Scott.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
So the first question I like to ask people who come on the show, as I'm calling it, is I say, what are you reading now? So Scott, maybe you could share what books
am I
you're
reading
reading
now?
right
Okay.
now.
Right now, I'm actually, there's my bookmark. I've got about 60 pages, so based on current reading pace, that's probably going to be knocked out by the end of the evening. But I'm reading The Great Influenza by John M. Barry, trying to keep my quarantine reading light. This is obviously about the last big pandemic in 1918, the influenza pandemic, which was misstated as the Spanish flu. It actually originated in the United States, but yet they called it the Spanish flu, so probably a good lesson for us when we're trying to ascribe blame on pandemics in the current environment. A lot of really interesting parallels. There was not only a first wave in this, there was a second wave and then a smaller third wave.
Oh.
So it actually, I maybe kind of read it with some hope that it would give me some positivity going forward. It's a pretty depressing read. I actually, as a reader, I was a little annoyed by some of the editing. It's a bit long. It could be a couple hundred pages shorter. So I'm going to give this maybe 3 out of 5 stars. I think if it wasn't topical to the moment, I probably wouldn't finish it. But this is undoubtedly the best book about the pandemic of 1918. So there you go. And then this book is my fun read for the week.
Hey.
It is by one of my favorite authors, David Mitchell. He's a British literary fiction writer. He wrote The Cloud Atlas, which is what he's most known for. They made it into a very odd film. This is called Utopia Avenue. Came out today. It is about a fictional rock group, sort of a psychedelic folk rock group that became famous in the late 60s. So the book starts sort of in the Sgt. Pepper's era, and it follows sort of the development of psychedelic rock. And it's basically three narrators, each members of the band, and it sort of cycles through. And it's got a cool structure. The chapters are basically songs, and the sections of the book are basically part of the 3 albums the band produced. So it's really kind of a deep dive for music nerds. A lot of fun. If you're into British music in the 60s, this is a must-read. And if you like David Mitchell, it's pretty vintage David. There's connections to all the other books that he's written, and all those other characters sort of pop in and out.
Oh,
Very
wow.
creative. So that's what I'm reading.
It sounds a bit like This is Spinal Tap, maybe?
It's not as campy as that, but it definitely, yeah. In fact, funny you say that, the drummer actually gets, no spoiler alert, but the drummer gets in a car wreck and almost dies. And at that point, I thought I was in Spinal Tap, but he survives.
Maybe it was part of his inspiration.
Yeah, maybe. So.
Well, I don't have my book to share, and I've just started it, so I won't get into it much, but it's a novel, Pizza Girl. In fact, I should have had the author's name here, but a future review coming up on that, Pizza Girl, so be on the lookout for that. You know, you mentioned 3 out of 5 for the influenza book. I've thought about, you know, people do movie reviews, they do like, oh, it's 4 out of 5 popcorns, and like, well, what would work for books? And I thought, oh, maybe like 4 out of 5 coffees. But if you drink
coffees,
if you drink 4 coffees, you're not going to be feeling good.
I'm wondering, 4 out of 5 bookmarks. I don't know how many bookmarks do you put in a book.
Cups of tea.
Cups of tea. That reminds me of 3 cups of tea, which
it's 2.
is sort of a depressing story.
So help me out with that, folks. Put in the comments below what you think our rating system should be: coffee or tea or bookmarks or bookends.
Bookends, that's good.
So the other news I wanted to share, as folks know, we can place these books on hold, and we've got 18 pickup service locations now with the San Diego Public Library. And for those folks who, especially like with titles like Utopia Avenue, they're new, they're fresh, lots of holds on them. You want to read it now or very soon, and you maybe don't want to wait, which is understandable. A great option for folks is the library shops. Scott, why don't you tell them a little bit about how they can order from the library shop?
Yeah, for sure. We're obviously closed to in-person visiting, but we're down at the Central Library. We're a nonprofit book and gift shop. All the proceeds support the San Diego Public Library. Our website is open 24/7. It has everything we usually have in the store available there online at libraryshopsd.org. And currently, we are doing free contactless local delivery within a 25-mile radius of the library shop. Oh, wow. So if you have anything you want, visit the website, purchase it, and we will actually deliver it to your door within 48 hours.
Awesome. I have to check that out, and we will post that there. Now, the library shop is connected to the San Diego Public Library Foundation. For those who don't know, can you say, in a bit, what does the foundation do? What's their function in relation to the public library?
Yeah, so the foundation's been around for a while, and when we started, our main objective was to fundraise to build buildings. So our most famous accomplishment is raising the money for the Central Library, which opened in 2013. But since then, we've really transitioned into the important work of advocacy. So every year, the city budgets are tight, as we all know. Every year, the library is under threat for cuts. And so we really try to mobilize the public who already have an appreciation for how great our library system is to sort of fight and let council people know how important it is to them. So this last budget round, which was, of course, complicated by COVID, there was a proposed $7 million in cuts. And because of just local citizens speaking up and contacting their council people, showing up for virtual meetings, saying they didn't want the library cut, we actually eliminated all the budget cuts. So the library was able to survive with the same budget they had the previous year. And so this year, again, will be another tough budget fight, when it comes around in 21. And so the best way to get involved is to go to librariestransformsd.org, which is a really handy website. There's a way you just click one button and you can contact your council person in your district and let them know how important the library is. And then we also have an advocacy newsletter that goes out that you can sign up for there as well. So librariestransformsd.org is really the best way to understand what the foundation does and to help.
Okay. Well, that sounds really excellent. And yeah, this last year was massive as far as restoration to the library. And thank you for all your work and for the folks at the foundation. So
yeah, and obviously, hopefully we can live in an environment where the conversation is not to stop the cuts, but how can we increase funding for the library? That's the foundation's ultimate hope. So
definitely.
But it really does depend on the public. So we had the foundation and the library had the most public comments of any of the departments, and during the budget discussions, and that really made an impact on the city council to see that the numbers of people coming forward.
Wow, that is really something to hear, and probably maybe a lot of folks don't understand.
Yeah, it's the budget situation is a very complicated process, and people feel like their voices aren't heard, I think, a lot of the time, and they don't realize how few comments are really necessary to move the needle with policymakers, because they do want to hear what we think. So
Move the needle. Absolutely. Well, Scott, thanks so much for coming on Read More. Today I think so. We got a couple of great reads discussed, recommended for you. Do think about shopping at the library shop, everybody, and just kind of learning a little bit more about the work of the San Diego Public Library Foundation. So,
thanks,
thanks so
Trevor.
much again, and I'll have to have you back on the show sometime, Scott. So.
Anytime.
Okay, as promised, one of the greatest book covers ever. Okay, look at that. Look at the just composition of elements. Okay, I want you to take that in. Feel free to pause the video, everyone. It's also a great book, by the way.